There's something sitting in this energy right now that feels heavy, but not in a loud way. It's the kind of heavy that settles into your chest quietly, the kind you carry around all day without realizing how much weight it actually is. And I want to sit with that for a moment before we go anywhere, because I think whoever this reading is for, you already know something has shifted. Or is shifting. You can feel it, even if you can't quite name it yet. This feels like someone standing at the edge of something. Not dramatically. Not in a crisis. But internally there is a version of this person who is deeply, quietly unsettled. And what strikes me immediately about this energy is that it isn't about confusion in the way we usually think about confusion. It's not, I don't know what's happening. It's more like, I know what's happening, and I don't want to fully admit it to myself yet. Does that feel familiar to anyone sitting with this reading tonight? Because I'm sensing two timelines almost running parallel inside this person's mind. One of them belongs to the past, and it's still warm. It still has color in it. There are memories attached to it that haven't fully faded, feelings that didn't get resolved the way they were supposed to. And then there's this other timeline, this quieter one, that's slowly, almost reluctantly, beginning to take shape. Like a door that's been left just slightly ajar. They haven't opened it all the way. But it's there. Let me go deeper into this, because there's a lot here. The first thing I want to address, and this feels very strong, is that whoever this person is, they are not someone who makes decisions quickly. That's not a criticism. There's actually something really thoughtful about the way they move through life, through relationships, through emotional terrain. They feel things deeply. They process slowly. They don't just let go because someone tells them to, and they don't pretend to be okay when they're not. Even if the outside world might see a composed, functioning person, inside, they are sitting with a lot. And right now, a significant portion of what they're sitting with is her. The past connection. The woman, or the feminine energy, who still has a thread attached to this person's heart. I want to be careful here because this is a collective reading, and I know not everyone will resonate with every detail. But if this lands for you, take it. Because what I'm feeling is that this past connection didn't end cleanly. There's no clean break energy here. There's no, we tried and it didn't work and now we've both moved on. It's much more tangled than that. There's something that was left unfinished. A conversation that never happened. An apology that maybe came too late, or not at all. Feelings that were real, genuinely real, but something in the situation made it impossible. Timing. Circumstance. Something external that got in the way of something that internally felt right, or at least significant. And I think that's part of why this person can't just release it. Because it wasn't a relationship that failed due to incompatibility. It was a connection that got complicated by something outside of the feeling itself. And that's so much harder to walk away from. Because you can't point to a reason that makes the heart feel satisfied. You just have to carry the weight of what if without ever getting the answer. This is interesting, because what I'm getting now is that there's a real overthinking pattern happening inside this person's mind. And it's not just overthinking in a casual sense. It is relentless. It is circular. It is the kind of mental loop that wakes you up at 3 a.m. and makes you replay a conversation from 6 months ago, looking for clues you missed, trying to find the moment where things could have gone differently. Have you ever been so deep inside your own thoughts that reality starts to feel slightly blurry? Like you're not quite present because part of you is perpetually somewhere else, in the past, in an imagined future, in a scenario that may or may not ever come to pass. That's the energy I'm picking up here. This person's mind is working overtime. Almost frantically, beneath a calm surface. And here's what strikes me, they are probably not letting anyone see this. To the outside world, they might seem fine. They might seem like they're handling things. Maybe they've even convinced themselves, in certain moments, that they are handling things. But there's this undercurrent, this constant quiet hum of anxiety and uncertainty that never quite goes away. It's like background noise they've learned to function around, but it's always there. The mouse and rabbit energy I'm feeling here, and some of you will understand what I mean by this even if you can't articulate it, is this energy of someone who is hypervigilant, sensitive to signals, reading between lines, noticing things other people don't notice. In some ways it's a gift. In other ways, right now, in this situation, it's become a source of exhaustion. Because when you are highly perceptive and you're also sitting in emotional uncertainty, your mind can turn every small thing into a potential sign. Every silence means something. Every word choice means something. Every moment of distance becomes something to analyze and decode. I'm hearing something like, "I just want to know where I stand." And that phrase feels deeply true for this person. Not in a demanding way. In a quietly desperate way. They are tired of not knowing. They are tired of the uncertainty. And yet, there's something that's been keeping them from directly confronting it, or from walking away from it entirely. Something that keeps them suspended in this in-between space. Let me go somewhere a little deeper now, because the energy is pulling me there. There's a point, and I feel like this person has either recently hit it, or is very close to it, where something inside just collapses. And I don't mean that in a catastrophic way. I mean it in the way that eventually, when you've been carrying something too heavy for too long, your inner structure gives. The story you were telling yourself, the hope you were holding onto, the version of events where this eventually works out, starts to crack under its own weight. The Ten of Swords energy here is so specific. And before anyone hears that and panics, I want to say, this isn't about something terrible happening externally. This is about an internal ending. A moment of honesty with oneself that is painful, but that is also, in its own way, a release. It's the moment where you stop pretending. Where you stop holding the hope at the same frantic pitch you've been holding it at, and you just exhale. And maybe let the tears come. Or maybe sit in a kind of quiet numbness. But something softens. Something that was clenched finally releases. At first this looked to me like pure grief, and there is grief here, absolutely. But the more I sit with it, the more I feel like this is also a turning point. A threshold. Because something that has collapsed can be rebuilt differently. And sometimes the collapse is the most necessary thing. Sometimes you have to let the version of events that wasn't serving you fall apart before you can see clearly what's actually in front of you. This person has been holding on. Maybe to hope. Maybe to a version of this other person, the past connection, that they want to be real, that they've invested real emotional energy in, but that may not match what's actually being offered. And something inside them is beginning to know this. Quietly. Reluctantly. They're beginning to know. The energy changes here, and I want to sit with this carefully because it's significant. There's something around this person that feels like self-imposed limitation. Like mental chains, almost. And this is the part that's so subtle and so important, because it doesn't feel like external circumstances are the primary obstacle right now. It feels like the primary obstacle is inside. It's the way this person's own mind has constructed a kind of cage around their options. They tell themselves things like, "It's not the right time." Or, "Maybe if I just wait a little longer." Or, "I don't want to ruin what we have." Or, "I don't want to seem needy." Or, "Maybe I'm reading this wrong." And all of these thoughts are understandable. All of them come from somewhere real. But together, they create a kind of paralysis. A situation where this person can see multiple paths in front of them, but feels unable to move toward any of them. So they stay still. And staying still feels safe, but it's also its own kind of suffering. I want to say something gently but directly here. No one is keeping this person trapped except this person's own beliefs about what they can or cannot do. What they deserve or don't deserve. What is or isn't possible. And I say this not to be harsh, but because there's something almost protective about the way this energy has formed. Like at some point, being small and invisible and contained felt safer than being seen. Maybe there was a time when making yourself smaller was the adaptive thing to do. Maybe it even worked. But it doesn't work here. And some part of this person knows that. Some part of them is beginning to feel the frustration of their own containment. This is interesting, because I can feel a quiet anger underneath this energy. Not loud anger. Not explosive anger. But a simmering, low-frequency frustration with the situation as it is. With the uncertainty. With the lack of reciprocity, maybe. With the feeling of giving more than they've received. Does that land for anyone? Because this feels like someone who has been emotionally generous, maybe more generous than the situation warranted, and who is beginning, slowly, to reckon with that imbalance. Let me talk about the other person for a moment. The past connection. The her in this story. Because while the focus of this reading is clearly on the person watching, I think understanding what's happening on the other side helps clarify what this person is dealing with internally. What I'm getting is that this past connection is genuinely meaningful to them. To this other person. I don't want anyone to walk away thinking, oh, they're just holding on to something that meant nothing. That doesn't feel true. There is real emotional residue here. There are real feelings that didn't fully resolve. And that means, in some energetic sense, this other person is also still circling this connection. Still thinking about it, even if they're not openly saying so. But, and this is important, there's also a significant amount of their own unprocessed material on that side. Their own fears. Their own limitations. Their own reasons for not moving forward, whatever those reasons are. And what I'm sensing is that those reasons have less to do with the person watching this reading, and more to do with this other person's own internal landscape. Their own relationship to commitment, or vulnerability, or change, or something else entirely. The crossroads energy I'm picking up, the tarantula energy, which I think of as patient power, the kind of stillness that holds incredible potential, this is showing up for both of them. Both people are at a crossroads. Both are in a moment of quiet reckoning. And a decision is forming. I do feel that, a quiet decision is crystallizing inside this person. Maybe they don't even know it consciously yet. But something has shifted. Something is moving from, I'll keep holding on, towards something else. Something more honest. And that is significant. That's not nothing. There's more to this than it first appeared, and I want to make sure I go here because it feels important for some of you. For some people watching this reading, the crossroads isn't primarily about this other person at all. It's about yourself. It's about a version of you, an old version, maybe, one that was defined by this connection or by the longing for it, and whether that version of you is ready to be retired. Gently. With compassion. But retired nonetheless. Because sometimes we hold on to people as a way of holding on to ourselves. A version of ourselves that felt something deeply, that was cracked open by someone, that experienced a level of aliveness and connection that felt rare. And walking away from that person can feel, on some level, like walking away from that version of yourself. Like closing a chapter of your own life. And that is genuinely sad. That grief is real. I don't want to minimize it. But here's what I also want to offer, that aliveness you felt? That capacity for depth and feeling and connection? That didn't come from them. It came from you. They may have been the catalyst. They may have opened something in you. But the thing that opened, that is yours. It always was. And it goes with you wherever you go next. You don't lose that by releasing them. You actually, and this feels true to me, you actually reclaim it. I want to talk about the hedgehog energy now, because it showed up so clearly and so distinctly, and it feels like it carries a very specific message. There's something so particular about hedgehog energy. It's soft and it's small, but it's also protected. It has its own defense mechanisms. And there's something about the way it moves, quietly, carefully, with an inner knowing of where it's going, that speaks to me about this person's next step. Because I think the next step isn't dramatic. It's not a grand gesture or a loud declaration. It's quiet. It's internal. It's a decision that happens in the privacy of your own heart, before anyone else knows about it. Trust yourself. That's the message that keeps coming through when I connect to this energy. Trust yourself. Trust yourself. Trust yourself. Not in a way that means you have all the answers. But in a way that means, the thing you've been feeling, the thing you've been quietly sensing for a while now, it's not wrong. You're not imagining the imbalance. You're not being too sensitive. You're not projecting. What you feel is real, and your inner knowing is functioning correctly, even when your mind tries to talk you out of it. Because this is someone who has probably had their perception questioned either by others or by themselves. Who has probably been in that painful place of, am I reading this right? Am I making this into something it's not? And the answer that comes through so clearly in this energy is, no. You're not making it into something it's not. You see clearly. You've always seen clearly. The question is just whether you're ready to honor what you see. The energy keeps repeating something here, it sounds like, you already know. And that's not a scary message. It's actually a compassionate one. Because you already know means you're not waiting for information you don't have. You have what you need. You've always had what you need. The journey is less about discovering something new, and more about allowing yourself to trust what's already inside you. For those of you watching this who are somewhere in the middle, not quite ready to let go, but also not fully capable of continuing to hold on, I want to say something to you specifically. You don't have to make a decision today. You don't have to have everything figured out by the end of this video. The timeline here is not one of sudden dramatic clarity. It's gradual. It's unfolding. And that's okay. There is enormous dignity in the process of slowly becoming more honest with yourself. There is wisdom in the fact that you don't rush. That you feel things fully. That you're unwilling to betray yourself by pretending. But I do want to offer a gentle nudge, because the energy here suggests that the longer this remains unresolved either within yourself or in the dynamic with this other person, the more emotionally costly it becomes. Not because anyone is doing anything wrong. But because liminal spaces, while necessary sometimes, are not places we are meant to live indefinitely. At some point the crossroads requires a step. Not a perfect step. Not an irreversible leap. Just a step. And I feel like that step is closer than it seems. That decision that's quietly forming? It's almost ready. Something has been building, and whether this person is conscious of it or not, something is shifting in the direction of clarity. Of self-respect. Of choosing themselves, maybe for the first time in this particular situation, in the way they deserve to be chosen. Let me bring this home now, because the energy is settling into something quieter. What strikes me most about this entire reading is how much internal courage this person has, even if they don't see it that way. Because staying soft when you've been hurt takes courage. Continuing to feel deeply in a situation that hasn't given you certainty takes courage. Refusing to numb yourself, refusing to pretend, choosing to sit with the discomfort of not knowing, that takes a particular kind of strength that doesn't always get recognized as strength. You are not weak for having feelings. You are not weak for still being connected to this. You are not weak for the overthinking, for the hoping, for the replaying. Those are the marks of someone who actually cares, someone who takes the inner life seriously, someone who is unwilling to be casual about something that mattered to them. But, and I want to say this as gently as I can, there is a version of your future that is lighter. There is a version of your life that isn't defined by this particular unresolved thread. And I don't know exactly what that future looks like, and I'm not going to promise you anything specific. But I will say that the energy around the path forward, once this person steps through the crossroads, is genuinely open. Genuinely spacious. There's something on the other side of this that isn't just absence or loss. There's something that feels like breath. Like room to be yourself without the weight of something unfinished pressing down on your chest. The hedgehog knows where it's going. Slowly. Carefully. With its own protection intact. It doesn't need anyone else to tell it the path is safe. It goes anyway. For those of you in the collective who felt this reading today, whether it landed softly or whether it hit something tender, I just want to remind you that you found this for a reason. I don't believe in accidents in this space. If these words reached you, something in you called them in. And whatever is stirring in you right now, whatever question or recognition or quiet ache this brought up, that's not random. That's your inner knowing, already doing the work. Be patient with yourself. Be genuinely patient, not the kind of patience that's actually avoidance, but real patience, the kind that allows you to move through something at the pace your heart actually needs. You don't have to be done processing this before you deserve peace. You deserve peace right now, in the middle of it. And whatever decision forms in the quiet spaces of your own heart, trust it. Even if it surprises you. Even if it asks more of you than you expected. Even if it means closing something that once felt like everything. The most important relationship in this reading, in any reading, is the one you have with yourself. Everything else, every connection, every crossroads, every tangled thread, all of it is asking you to come back to that. To yourself. To your own knowing. To the part of you that is still whole beneath all of this uncertainty. That part never left. It's been waiting. And when you're ready, and you will be ready, it'll still be there, pointing the way.